want to welcome you all to our virtual gallery talk for LRMA's 20th anniversary exhibitions, which are up now through April 30th, 2022. Joining me today is a very, very special guest, Lynn Whitelaw, who's sitting next to me. Lynn is the founding director of the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art and the first curator. So we're just thrilled to have him here today. We're joining you all from the interactive gallery here at the museum. I also want to welcome Mina Rivera, who is our visitor services coordinator and graphic designer. And Mina will be doing the admin side of our program today. And she will be letting people into the waiting room and monitoring the chat feature. Lynn and I will be co-presenting here an overview of the exhibition and highlighting some of the major collections that have really changed the course of our museum.
Yes.
The program, it might run a little long because if you've seen either one of us talk, you know we are full of stories. So we certainly understand if you're not able to stay for the whole time, but we hope that the program might last about 40-45 minutes, and then that'll be followed by a Q&A. If you would like to submit questions in the chat feature, Nina will gather in those questions and we'll answer them at the end. And if just a reminder before we begin, if you could keep your microphones muted through the presentation, it would be greatly appreciated. And the program is actually going to be recorded, so we hope to be able to post this on our YouTube channel later, and you can study it for other things. So let's get started. Opening its doors in January 22nd, 2002, LRMA celebrates this milestone of 20 years by serving the community and showcasing its major collections and honoring the donors who helped build the foundation of the museum. LRMA's 20th anniversary Masterworks from the collection explores the evolution of modern art through the eyes of collectors and artists, from trailblazers like Francisco Goya to Paul Cézanne to contemporary artists such as Jim Dine. These artists broke free from centuries-old traditions and paved the way for generations of artists like Theo Wujcik and Christopher Still. Masterworks is complemented by two breakout galleries, which dive deeper into two major turning points in modern art, Impressionism and Abstract Expressionism. France's Impressions, early 20th century master French printmakers, unveils a recent acquisition of 5 Impressionist artists from the Cecily Mosier collection in our Works on Paper gallery. Greater Than 17, The Art and Influence of Stanley William Hayter and Atelier 17 is a traveling exhibition featured in our center gallery that highlights the evolution of surrealism to abstract expressionism, with 45 prints by Hayter and international artists of the renowned Atelier 17. We invite you to join us for in-depth programs about Hayter and Atelier 17 that will be happening Thursday this week and throughout March and April. You can visit leepa-rattner.org/calendar for more details, and we'll have a slide at the end with that information. The Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art was first established by a gift of art and archives made by Dr. Alan Leepa and his wife Isabel in 1997 to the St. Pete College Foundation. The collection and the museum that was built to house it honors the legacy of Abraham Ratner, Esther Gentle, and Alan Leepa, which documents their impact in the modern art movement. Alan Leepa was an educator and abstract expressionist painter and an author, and stepson of figurative expressionist Abraham Ratner. Leepa's mother, Esther Gentle, Ratner's second wife, was a force of nature as a sculptor, printmaker, and gallery owner. This gift also included an extensive collection of works by notable 20th century artists, including Pablo Picasso, Marc Chagall, and many others who were of Ratner's friends. As LRMA became established in 2002, the collection quickly gained momentum through major donations, including contemporary prints. Lynn Whitelaw will shed some light on these major collections in just a bit. To honor Leepa, we introduced the show with Tondo, which is the Italian word for circular work of art. The round composition allows the eye to move around but remain in a continuous flow within the circle. Check out our discovery on the back of the painting, just as interesting as the front. Our story begins 100 years ago with Abraham Ratner, who, like many artists who served in World War I, returned to France to study art. While in Paris from 1919 to 1939, Ratner was immersed in the inner circles of influential artists and writers. Pablo Picasso was one of the most influential and notorious artists of our time. He, along with fellow artist Georges Braque, pioneered Cubism and developed the art of collage. Quoted from Ratner's personal journal in 1934, Picasso and Braque are the new Renaissance. They acquired the idea that the purpose of art is to give satisfaction to our needs for lyrical expression. Both part of the Minotaur Surrealist group in Paris, Ratner and Picasso had many influential mutual friends, including Moreau, Leger, and Stanley William Hayter. These friendships are highlighted with works in the exhibition that include personal notes to Ratner and either his first wife, Bettina, or his second wife, Esther. Ratner visited Picasso on numerous occasions, including at his home in Mougins in southern France in the 1950s. This print you see on the left, Lobster, was probably acquired at that time and also appears along with a Ratner print in a book on modern printmaking by Hayter. This 1948 drawing by Picasso's longtime partner and muse, Françoise Gillot, was discovered by LRMA's curatorial volunteers around the same time as in the Ratner's archives in 2018. It may have been acquired around the same time as the Picasso Lobster print. This self-portrait shows Gillot playing with their infant son, Claude. It is inscribed on the backside to Esther Ratner. LRMA organized a major exhibition of Gillot's work in 2013, and right now, Gillot, at 100 years old, is still creating art. And if you can kind of see it, there is the inscription in the lower right corner that we have from the other side of the drawing. Seeing parenthood through a modernist's eyes, here we've compared Gillot and then Stanley William Hayter's use of line to create form through automatic drawing. On the left is Stanley Hayter's Augie's Foot, which is a birth announcement. Hayter's studio was a creative hub for anyone in Paris, and it was the Atelier 17 workshop. He had it located in Paris in the 20s and 30s and moved it to New York during World War II, and then back to Paris in the 1950s and so on. His New York studio was just around the corner from Ratner's studio. Symbolic of their friendship, this birth announcement includes a note to Abe and Bettina on the back. The etching of the baby's foot, etched into a plate, is Augie, child of Hayter, and his second wife, Helen Phillips. Another reference to Augie's birth is a Hayter print titled Maternity, which you see here on the right, which is actually on view in our Greater Than 17 exhibition in the center gallery. Among those who stood there was Ratner's most famous print. Ratner's work with Hayter at Atelier 17 was a collaboration and to create this print for the Museum of Modern Art's exhibition Hayter in Studio 17, New Directions in Gravure in 1944. Incidentally, if you go on MoMA's website, you can look up photographs of the installation of that exhibit from 1944. And I think if you look closely, you can find Ratner's print in there. The Metropolitan Museum of Art also purchased this print, which I think was purchased from that MoMA exhibition, for their collection as an example of 20th century advances in printmaking. Displayed with this print by Ratner is Esther Gentle's Encased Souls sculpture, a wire drawing trapped in a plexi box that reflects the similar autonomous line work as you see in Gillot and Hayter's work. This is another example of a good friendship that Ratner had, which is with Marc Chagall. And this was actually an entire portfolio that Chagall had given to Ratner, and it's inscribed to Abe and Esther. A side note, although this Picasso ceramic vase came into the LRMA collection much later, its origins lie within the time frame that Ratner would have been in touch with him in the 1950s. Owls were featured prominently in Picasso's work, including his ceramics. It is in this ancient symbol of Antibes, near the region where Picasso worked on ceramics in the mid-1940s at the Madura Pottery Place. While there, Picasso rescued an injured owl that he and Françoise nursed back to health and brought back to Paris in a little cage. Here you can see Picasso posing with that owl. And they had a bit of a love-hate relationship, if you could say. Both were ornery and set in their ways. We have a visual timeline in our front section of our gallery in this exhibition that spans about 200 years from the earliest avant-garde artists that led to the evolution of modern art. Francisco Goya was a painter and printmaker of the Romanticism period, which was about 1780 to 1830. One of the last old masters, Goya was the first truly modern artist railing against the idealism of the French Revolution to embrace the struggles for freedom, equality, and emotional expression. Edouard Manet was considered the father of modern art for his groundbreaking realism paintings that reflected ordinary contemporary life. He greatly influenced the Impressionists that would soon follow. His good friend, French poet Charles Baudelaire, described Romanticism as precisely situated neither in choice of subject nor in exact truth, but in a way of feeling. In the 1860s, Manet and Baudelaire were part of a group of progressive thinkers that included Degas, Pissarro, Renoir, Cézanne, and Monet, who all believed art should represent modern life, not history or mythology. Baudelaire's writing provided the philosophical connection between French Romanticism, Impressionism, and the birth of modern art. On the right here, you see Daumier. Daumier's work was a commentary on social and political life in France, associated with realism, but with the heart of a romantic painter. His satirical illustrations defied category. Charles Baudelaire said of Honoré Daumier's work that he was one of the most important men, not only in caricature, but also in modern art. Artists like Van Gogh greatly admired Daumier's work. Pierre-Auguste Renoir was a pioneer of the Impressionist movement along with his friend Claude Monet. They broke away from artistic traditions to capture spontaneity and light in a particular moment through quick strokes of the brush and broken color. Impressionism laid the foundation for modern art movements such as pointillism, post-impressionism, fauvism, and cubism. At the turn of the century, as photomechanical reproduction began to replace the work of master engravers, art dealers kept the graphic arts alive by commissioning printmakers like Jacques Villon to create limited edition prints of popular paintings. Villon was actually a cubist painter, but he was also a master printer, and his brother was Marcel Duchamp, so obviously he had to change his name to separate himself. In 1922, Galerie Bernheim Jeune commissioned Villon to produce a series of color aquatints after 38 major paintings of his contemporaries that included Matisse, Picasso, and others. Taking 10 years to complete, this series included Renoir's La Loge painting and Fernand Léger's Femme et la Cruche, which you will see in just a moment. Impressionist printmakers developed methods to further explore color and expressive mark making in a way that had not been used before. Other artists like Manuel Robb, seen here, used printmaking as a form of creative expression and pioneered techniques to achieve painterly effects similar to that captured with the brush and paint on canvas. Paul Cézanne bridged the gap between Impressionism and Post-Impressionism by inventing a whole new way of seeing by painting multiple viewpoints at the same time, which inspired Cubism. Here, he depicts Armand Guillaumin a French Impressionist painter and lithographer and friend of Vincent van Gogh. Cézanne was inspired to try his hand at etching based on Guillaume's paintings of barges on the River Seine. Cézanne's image on the right is allegedly the only etchings he did that was related to one of his master paintings with the same title, The Entrance into a Farm on the Rue Saint-Remy. Cézanne gave the painting actually to his Impressionist painter friend, Camille Pissarro, as a gift. In the middle, we have Paul Cézanne, who studied painting under Armand Guillaume and worked with Claude Monet and helped Georges Seurat develop the divisionist and pointillist style. Next, we have Ratner's contemporaries, and this includes artists who were part of his circle of friends in Paris throughout the 1920s and 30s, and they kept in touch even beyond that. They were part of the Minotaur group and were regularly published in the Verve magazine and other surrealist publications. So this is just a representation of the heavy hitters that Ratner had been friends with, but also was influenced by their work, including Jean Moreau, Marc Chagall, Georges Rouault, and Fernand Léger. And this Léger print, just so you know, is also from that Villon series. But Léger was also very important in supporting Ratner in his exhibitions in Paris and in New York throughout his career. Now I'm going to hand this off to Lynn Whitelaw, who will be talking a little bit about building the LRMA collection in its early years.
Christine, that was excellent. And it proves our point of how we want our collection to represent the history of art history from the 19th century beginning all the way up into the 21st century. And you've done it. Beautiful. In 1998, I became the founding director of the yet unbuilt Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art. I was concerned at the time that LRMA would not become a real collecting institution beyond its mission of honoring the Leepa-Rattner General Collection. But museums are about building community and purpose, and I'm very proud of the fact that LRMA has amassed a formidable collection through the generosity of more than 75 donors over the past 20 years. That pride, as is being celebrated today in these exhibitions, was also the theme of our 10th anniversary exhibition, Telling Stories, that honored the donors who had broadened the mission of the museum and added their voice to our cultural legacy. They are interesting stories, and stories often of serendipity, of time and place. And so I'd like to go through just a few of them. Prior to the opening of the Leepa-Rattner on January 22nd, 2002, in December of the previous year, through a fortunate circumstance, the museum and at that time the St. Petersburg Junior College Foundation, which was under the direction of Dr. Janice Buchanan, we were able to broker a deal in New York City with the transfer of a print inventory as a donation to the college. That resulted in 252 significant fine art prints representing contemporary print ateliers in the United States and Canada. And they were eventually given to the museum through the foundation. This serendipitous opportunity set in motion the idea that LRMA could expand and build on its print collection, and that it could present, as I said, the history of art from the early 19th century through into the 21st century. This is now a collecting focus and has been, we've been fortunate to develop it as a legacy through many of those gifts. From that initial collection, we were able to, what we call the Canadian Print Collection. It has its own interesting history, which I won't go into, but was this incredible body of prints. And in reviewing them, we saw that there was a group of these prints that were done at Vinyl Haven Island, which is an island off the coast of Maine, where Robert Indiana, who you see on your left, actually lived. And we put together one of our earliest exhibitions was an exhibit of the Canadian prints that were done on Vinyl Haven Island. And Charles Hewitt was in that show. He's the artist that you see on the right. Going to the next one, the word that SPJC was opening a new museum as a cultural destination received a lot of media coverage all across the Tampa Bay area. An art collector living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, by the name of Edna Schroer and her husband wanted to show their pride and support of St. Petersburg Junior College and this endeavor to open up a new museum. Edna was well connected with the college, called me up and said, I want to be the first donation of artwork to your museum. Thus, this wonderful print by James McNeill Whistler, as well as other prints given by the Schurers over the years, demonstrate how conveying our mission and collection focus has attracted so many donors to the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art. This is their stories, and I love to tell them. So, in 2005, 34, innovative and large format fine art screen prints by 7 internationally known artists were donated to LRMA by art aficionado and collector Dorothy Mitchell, who lived in Pasco County. She had been an underwriter of Berg off-Cowden Editions, and this remarkable gift strengthened the museum's contemporary print collection by adding significant works by Sam Gilliam, as you see here, and also Miriam Shapiro. The story of the Patricia and Thomas Lennon family collection is also an interesting story that is tied to the hurricanes that hit the west coast of Florida in 2004. That was when Hurricane Charlie and 2 others came through. The Lennons lived on Anna Maria Island, were passionate art collectors. They had retired to Anna Maria Island and had this wonderful art collection, but decided after having to evacuate the island 3 times that year that living there was and jeopardizing their art collection should not be in their future. Tom had been a vice president for Neiman Marcus. He had managed their corporate collection and supervised the art collections for all new Neiman Marcus stores during his tenure there. His contact with many of the artists provided with LRMA with several exhibitions and important contacts over the years. The Lennons became interested in LRMA and as a new institution, and their letter of intent to the Collections Committee stated, the opportunity to promote the educational aspects of the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art, particularly as it affects young patrons, is the core of our interests. The Lennons donated 56 diverse objects to the museum, from ethnographic art to important contemporary artists such as Alexander Calder, Victor Vasarely, Dale Chihuly, and Paulo Soleri. One of the most endearing donors to the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art over the years was Lothar Uhl, a passionate German-born art collector who lived in St. Pete. He was well recognized at LRMA and attended our openings, galas, and events. Lothar had been collecting art since the 1950s and purchased most exclusively in the medium of graphic art prints. In his letter of intent, he stated, "My late wife, Mildred, and I have always wanted to donate our artwork collected over many years to an institution where they would find a proper home." He also felt that he wanted these items to go to a museum where they would be appreciated and can be added to a growing graphics collection. Lothar loved our mission of presenting art history through prints and gave hundreds of prints of 19th and 20th century European and American artists. His gift of a large body of Leonard Baskin prints were featured in a major exhibition in 2006 and has been recognized as the largest private collection of Baskin prints in any museum collection. Other lent and donated works from the Yule collection were shown in exhibitions over the years, and also including a major exhibition of 19th century Winslow Homer prints in 2010. In honor of Lothar and Mildred Yule, our Works on Paper collection is named after them. Another related fascinating story is that of Carolyn Adams Berg de Jong, an art critic and art historian who lived all of her adult life in Paris, France. Caroline would spend several months each winter in Pinellas County with her husband, Fabrice. She would always visit the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art, loved the story of Ratner in Paris, and in 2006, met Lothar and was totally enamored of our Leonard Baskin exhibit because she had studied with Baskin at Smith College as an art history student. She also met Annette Gordon, who was our collections manager at the time, and who was a French speaker and who traveled to France every year. That led to a marriage made in heaven. Carolyn was an avid collector of prints and decided to donate and ship her extensive collection of hundreds of prints created in the mid to late 20th century in Parisian ateliers by various artists, and to give that to the Leepa-Rattner. She felt that she had it would not be shown in museums in France because they would already have large collections of these particular artists. But she thought that if they were at the Leepa-Rattner, it would expand our early 20th century prints and now include that the whole century of French graphic arts could be documented. She said in her letter of intent, "My hope is this donation will introduce young people to the wonderful world of prints, and that collecting of our prints can be done at reasonably prices." In late 2006, the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art held a series of exhibitions related to Pablo Picasso, highlighted by a show of Picasso ceramics from the Fort Lauderdale Museum of Art. A retired couple with a fascinating career history in New York and Paris, but now lived in their retirement years in Bel Air, named Rita and Robert Scott, came to see the exhibition because they collected Picasso ceramics. They were very impressed by the museum, and in 2013, after her husband's death, Rita Scott contacted the museum and wished to include the museum in her will with the donation of 14 significant works, including a Picasso ceramic and major painting by Kenneth Nolan, and other, which are now on view in this exhibition, as well as other important works. There are more incredible stories of the generosity, passion, and commitment to the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art through donations. And Christine will be talking about those that have happened since my retirement in 2015. I leave you with the story of how in 2012, on the occasion of LRMA's 10th anniversary, with fundraising and generous donations, we were allowed to flesh out our collection with the purchase of 6 specific works of art to enhance the collection. Works by Duncan McClellan, Herb Schnitzer, Maria Albornoz, Leslie Dill, Kenny Scharf, and William Wegman, who you see on your left. That was a wonderful tribute to honor our collection. Lastly, and I sort of brazenly are showing you a print that I donated, one of 2 Daumier prints, to the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art. My backstory is I purchased it while in 1973 while taking a museum connoisseurship class in graduate school while studying at Florida State University's overseas study program in Florence, Italy. While I enjoyed these prints for more than 40 years, I knew they needed to be in the LRMA collection because it is a fit with our collecting passion, and then it is a place where it can be for eternity, I hope. I say this because we all, through our donations of money or artwork that we may have in our collections that support the LRMA collection, and albeit small or it can lead in significant ways to make us a part of the stories of LRMA's legacy. And this idea of telling stories is what is so important with what we are doing and honoring with our 20th anniversary. And I now hand it back to Christine.
Oh, thank you, Lynn. That was fantastic. And I think I learned a few more things too. So our story is not done yet. We have more, but not much more, so don't worry. We continue our journey in the evolution of modern art into our North Gallery, which is our large gallery in the back, highlighting prominent artists from the 1960s to today. We have pop art featuring Jim Dine on the far left and Robert Indiana. We have abstract expressionism and color field painting with Sam Gilliam and Kenneth Noland, which I realize these don't look like color field paintings like Mark Rothko, but they were both of that era and explored the hard edge style of color field painting and painting on drapery. We have the studio glass movement, which Dale Chihuly was a big part of starting in the 60s, and then neo-expressionism, which we'll see in a second, with Donald Sultan and Louisa Chase. And we also celebrate contemporary Florida artists like Christopher Still at that same level, thanks in great part to the Gulf Coast Museum of Art collection and local artists and collectors. Since opening in 2002, the Leepa-Rattner Museum of Art has expanded its collection through gifts and purchases, as well as building repositories of artists such as David Anderson, Richard Florsheim, Roy Whitland, Tomas Marias, Vladimir Yaffe, and many others. The museum saw an enormous amount of growth with the addition of the Gulf Coast Museum of Art collection and accreditation from the American Alliance of Museums, or also known as AAM, in 2013. And we will be pursuing our reaccreditation as it's at a 10-year due point right now in the coming months. In 2009, the Gulf Coast Museum of Art, located in Largo, closed its doors. As the registrar and curator for the Gulf Coast Museum, I oversaw the transition of the collection from the museum to St. Pete College, and in 2010, a significant portion of that collection was given to LRMA to remain under the watchful eye of the museum curator, Lynn Whitelaw. In its 73-year history, the Gulf Coast Museum of Art collection served as a time capsule that documented the rich cultural landscape of Tampa Bay, and it highlighted our region's flourishing art scene from the 1970s to the 2000s. This gift enriched LRMA's permanent collection of approximately 6,000 objects and created a new collecting focus on contemporary Florida art since 1990, along with fine crafts of the southeastern United States. LRMA has transformed 2 permanent collection galleries dedicated to Florida art and fine crafts. Highlights in the Masterworks exhibition includes Richard Currier's monumental self-portrait. The artist is based in Mico, Florida, and he's actually going to be a part of the Gasparilla Arts Festival, which takes place the first weekend in March, and I highly recommend you go visit his booth. Theo Wujcik's Dine's Dilemma and Richard Beckman's Pod Yad sculptures are both testaments to the artist's legacies as 2 important contemporary Florida artists whose impact on the arts community as artists and professors is still felt today. In addition to Wujcik's Dine's Dilemma painting, he did a series of portraits of his mentors, which include Jim Dine. Jim Dine was known for his motifs in the 1960s of hearts and bathrobes, which you might recognize in abstract expressionist and pop art movements. Dine's The First Woodgate Woodcut, along with Donald Sultan's screen print with flocking, and Sir Gordon Elliot Hodgkin's print, which you'll see next, are unveiled for the first time as a part of the most recent donation of prints from the collector Jim Sweeney. Since 2017, collectors Jim and Martha Sweeney have donated more than 70 works to LRMA and supported numerous exhibitions, including the major retrospective Louisa Chase, What Lies Beneath, which took place in 2020. They have helped to make the museum have significant strides in dramatically increasing its representation of African-American artists, which took place in a major print exhibition last summer, women artists, folk artists, and other major contemporary artists. We're extremely thankful for the Sweeney's donation, and of the many exhibitions that we've included their works in, there's many more to come. In 2017 and 18, LRMA also received 2 significant donations that greatly enhanced the photography and Florida artist collections. California photographer Robert von Sternberg established the Museum Project to ensure contemporary photography was represented in museum collections throughout the country and to ensure it was recognized as the fine art form it should be. Comprised of a small group of prominent photographers, mostly based out of the UCLA grad school, donated more than 4,000 photographs worldwide to museum collections and university collections. LRMA's contemporary photography collection literally doubled in size, with more than 40 works donated by these renowned photographers. In 2018, we worked with collector Cleta Clark to select more than 40 works to be bequeathed to LRMA that focused on Florida artists. This gift complemented LRMA's collection of Rocky Bridges, which, thanks to Cleta Clark, we now have 28 works by him, and with David McCurdy, which now we have 11 works by David McCurdy. And these collections provide an overview of their artistic careers from the late 80s, early 90s to today. Von Sternberg and McCurdy are in good company in this vignette, which includes Florida artist Tom Kentner, William Wegman, Sir Gordon Elliot Hodges, and Louisa Chase and Dale Chihuly. Peering through a series of windows within the work, you become the voyeur of intimate moments in a quiet and reflective space. David McCurdy's mirror is quite literally a reflection of the viewer, distorted and ever-changing in infinite silver circles. If you peer around the corner, you will see a similar silhouette portrait in Tom Kentner's painting Couple with Window. Looking through McCurdy's mirrored window, the viewer's reflection becomes a part of the art. Symbolically, this is LRMA's collection reflecting back on its community, and you are a part of our journey. Finally, from world cultures to Florida artists of our region, we are witnesses to and interpret the evolution of social consciousness in one of the purest forms of human expression. From realism to abstraction, this is reflected in 200 years of art that we have on display here. Coming full circle, this is perhaps best represented in Christopher Still's painting Last Light, made in 2007, which is displayed next to George Innes Sr.'s Home of the Heron, painted in 1893, the year Ratner was born. Hence why Ratner's bronze torso sculpture is included, which hopefully it's not covered in this picture, but it's in the gallery in front of the window. Painted locally within a few miles of each other, 114 years apart, Innes and Still's landscapes are connected through time. They serve as a reminder of the importance of artists' interpretations of our world in which the past mirrors the present day. It is the museum's role to make history by preserving the past while cultivating the future. And with that, we hope you will be a part of our journey to see what happens next in the next 20 years and beyond. So thank you so much for all of you that have come and sat with us today. I would like to again thank our program sponsor, Theodosia Tamberlane, artist. And I'd love to thank my co-presenter here, Lynn Whitelaw, and partner in crime. And I'd also love to thank Nina Rivera for assisting today. We would love to share with you our upcoming programs, which you can see listed on the museum's website calendar, but I've also have them listed here. We're really excited to have scholar Ann Schaefer, who will be speaking about Stanley William Hayter and Atelier 17. She was a former colleague of mine from the Baltimore Museum of Art, and she will be in town and be speaking here in person on Thursday, February 24th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So we hope you can join us. We'll have a virtual talk about the women of Atelier 17 with scholar and author Christina Weil, and that will be a virtual program on March 24th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. And then lastly, we will be working with the collector Tyrus Clutter, who brought us Greater Than 17, which is on display in our center gallery. He'll be giving a viscosity printmaking workshop and a gallery talk on April 8th. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for being a part of this. Now we'll open it up to the Q&A, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can see all of your bright shining faces here. And let us know if you have any questions. Nina, were there any questions? No?
Nope, not yet.
Not yet? Feel free to chime in. I mean, this is, we're all friends here, so we're happy to answer questions. I see Jim Sweeney is on the call, which is great. Thank you for coming, Jim Sweeney. Do we have any questions out there? No? Oh, and I see Theo. Theo, thank you so much. We're glad.
I asked a question.
You did? Okay, what was it?
Well, I just want to thank you and Lynn and everyone else that has been involved over the years with the development of the Leepa-Rattner Museum. When I moved here approximately 6 years ago from New York City and New Jersey and the art worlds that I participated in there, I was very nervous because I saw a lot of lovely paintings of water and birds in the shops here in Dunedin and the gallery here in Dunedin. And one day my daughter came to visit me from Colorado, and I took her around. And before she got on the plane, she said, "Mom, you got to promise me something." I said, "What's that?" She said, "You got to promise me you don't turn from your abstract work into painting what everyone else here is already done." She said, "You must continue to be an abstract artist." And I said, "Well, okay, that may be harder than I thought." And then I found Leepa-Rattner one day. And when I found Leepa-Rattner, I did the biggest happy dance of my life because I felt there was a place and an appreciation here in the Florida, Tarpon Springs, Dunedin area for abstract art and the history of abstract art. And so I thank everyone who has participated over the years in funding this magnificent museum. And I intend to continue to work with you for as long as you would like to have me, and the good Lord does provide. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
That's
Theo.
wonderful.
That was really, well, we appreciate your support and your artistic talents. And for those of you who don't know, Theo is also a wonderful docent as part of our docent corps. And we are just so grateful because the docents are really the backbone of our museum and the face of our museum. So we really appreciate all of them as they spread the good word about modern art to our community. So thank you, Theo. Does anybody else have any questions? No? Well, we'll take this opportunity. I cannot believe we made this under an hour.
Wow.
That is really impressive, especially as I mentioned, considering that Lynn and I could keep you for days with stories. But We really appreciate your time, and we hope that you will come and visit us in the gallery soon. And if you can make it on this Thursday to see Ann Schaefer speak in person, I think it's a great opportunity. She's a wonderful, wonderful speaker and a world scholar on Hayter and Atelier 17. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more from her. So with that, we wish you a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you and take care.
Bye-bye.